Welcome to The Holistic High Achiever. I'm your host, Kaitlin Rohowetz. This podcast is proudly sponsored by A Better Body, my therapeutic massage studio here in Madison, where massage is so much more than just relaxation. At A Better Body, we believe in personalized, empowering care that supports your overall health and wellness, because when you feel better, you do better. As a high achiever myself, I know how easy it is to push your own needs aside while chasing goals, building a business, or caring for others. And that's why this podcast exists. For all my fellow high achievers, entrepreneurs, and mompreneurs, and go-getters who want to thrive in a fast-paced, modern world without sacrificing their health, burning themselves out, and continuing to put themselves on the back burner. Yes, we talk about health, nutrition, and movement and easy solutions to living healthier, but we also cover topics like goal setting, building habits, and overcoming challenges and limiting beliefs, which can be applied to any area, including health, so that you can thrive holistically. Today, we're going to talk about embracing discomfort. This episode might surprise you because I talk a lot about small changes and how to make things easier as you're evolving. And I do believe those things wholeheartedly, that you can do things with minimal friction and do things strategically so that you don't feel like you're being too restrictive. And at some point in my own life, things had to hurt bad enough for me to make that realization, to figure out how to make change in a way that worked for me long term. And then eventually, once I became a health coach, do the same for my clients. So this got me thinking about the idea of discomfort. We don't like it. We avoid it at all costs. We don't want to be uncomfortable. We avoid things that feel yucky, that feel off, that feel restrictive or depriving or make us mad and angry. We just don't like discomfort. However, I also believe that there is a gift in discomfort that we often don't give enough credit to. For example, being hungry is uncomfortable, but it reminds you to eat. I think we all know what happens when we don't eat. You would die eventually. So we eat. It's to survive. Being sore makes you stretch or go get a massage, which helps with your health and well-being. And you often feel way better afterwards. Being late and disappointing people often feels uncomfortable. But it reminds you to plan ahead better or set alarms in your phone for reminders to change in a way that's going to benefit you and the others around you. So I love the idea of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you always keep your why in mind, it'll help you push past your discomfort, your fear, the challenges. Because friction and discomfort and obstacles and challenges are the catalyst for change. It begins there, and that's what ultimately makes you better. So while it's uncomfortable, it's also necessary. Because if something doesn't make you uncomfortable or unhappy or create any sort of challenge, you're not motivated to change it. Being a beginner at a new skill or practice feels awkward. And it's also really the only path to eventual confidence and competence. I was just having a conversation with an old coworker who is in a new role at the company she's with now, with the potential to be an owner in the company fairly early on. And she's having a hard time adjusting to all the change and the pressure. And I know she's likely to listen to this episode, so I'm going to share it with you and likely remind her what I told her. Nothing that is worth it is going to be easy. When we go through our biggest challenges, it's often the biggest opportunity to grow. Grow by learning, grow with success, grow with confidence, and grow into better, more capable versions of ourselves. And in her particular position, she's being like fast paced, pushed into learning a lot of new policies, a lot of new skills, a lot of new procedures, and simultaneously implementing them in a very fast paced environment. Like she's supposed to be for people, and it's uncomfortable. It's stressful. And she often feels like she maybe made a mistake leaving her last job for this one. She told me she's cried about it several times. But then she reminds herself that the reason she chose this is because of the incredible opportunity it has for her to do what she loves. Make great money doing it. Way more money than she was making before. Step into a leadership role and gain valuable mentorship skills. Like, you can't put a price tag on that. And also for her, it was important to her because she'll also have the ability to relocate, which has been a long-term goal of hers. That's her why. That's what's going to drive her. That why is what made her trust her gut to say yes in the first place. And that why is going to carry her through on the really hard days when she goes home and feels like crying. It's a temporary sacrifice that she is fully capable of for reaching her dream. I think that's a key differentiator here. I'm not telling you to be uncomfortable your entire life or everything always has to be hard or stressful. When the discomfort is going to be a temporary situation, right? When we're hungry, we're temporarily hungry until we eat. When we are learning a new skill, we're temporarily stressed about it until we get better at it. That's the thing here is, as long as it's something temporary. I don't want people to misconstrue this and say like, oh, well, I'm going to stay in a shitty relationship, even though it's uncomfortable because it's going to make me better. That's probably not temporary, that relationship, unless you guys are really going to do some therapy and work on it. It's likely going to stay that way because there's too many elements that are outside of your control, or stay in a job or with a toxic boss, right? Like if it involves an element of other people's behaviors that are outside of your control, that's different. Or if for some reason it's any other example that I haven't given that it's not going to be temporary, then this might not apply. But in most of the situations that I have been able to think of, that I've talked to clients about, friends about, personally gone through, a lot of it is just embracing that temporary discomfort while simultaneously keeping your why as your motivation in the back of your mind. Applying this to health, so many people avoid finally going for their health goals because it feels too hard. They don't have the motivation to work out. They don't want to give up ice cream. They hate eating healthy foods. It's hard choosing salad over pizza. Or saying no this time to cake at the birthday party. They'll have to plan ahead a little bit more and stop eating so much fast food, which is hard. Planning is hard. They're focusing on all of the things that feel hard. And they're not embracing the discomfort as a good thing. They're also not focusing on their why it's important to them in the first place. Like, why do you want to lose weight or get in shape or be healthier in the first place? There's not a right or wrong answer. For some, it's about feeling confident and comfortable and finally loving the body and the skin you're in. For some, it's to age gracefully or stave off disease, play with your grandkids. For some of us who are parents with younger kids, it's to set a great example for our kids who do what we do and they're watching us. They don't do what we say, they do what we do. And there's comfort, which feels good, in not changing. Sometimes even if we're not satisfied with our current circumstances, it still feels more comfortable to keep things the way they are than to change. And that's why people stay in shitty relationships. That's why people never fully commit to getting in shape or keep gaining and losing the same 10 pounds over and over again. I'm laughing at that one because I did that for a long time. That's why people stay in careers that they hate, because even though they don't like it, staying the same still feels easier than embracing the inevitable discomfort of what they would need to endure temporarily for real change to happen. But if you're listening to this podcast, you're not someone who is going to allow complacency. You're someone with strong goals and ambition and desire. And I'm willing to bet you have personally gone through some serious adversities in your life. Some things that really challenged you and pushed you and made you better as a result. Side note, I also feel like as we age, we get more comfortable and set in our ways because we've spent so much of our lives intentionally building these routines and habits that work. And then we simply don't want to change, especially once you're in that rhythm that works, that's comfortable. So at that point, we're not as accustomed to feel that discomfort as frequently. And while that is a good thing for the most part, I'll remind you that once you're at a point where you're desiring change, sometimes that discomfort, not even sometimes, almost always, that discomfort is going to be a necessary part of the process. And you get to control, to a certain extent, how much discomfort you're willing to go through. You know, for example, if you're going to take small steps for weight loss, or you're going to like completely cold turkey cut out all carbs and sugar and stuff. I'm an advocate for the small steps, but either way, there's a little bit of discomfort in either one. It still requires change. It still requires mental load. What's an area in your life where you're resisting change? It might be health. Whatever area it is, you're probably avoiding doing what you know needs to happen for you to level up. So what is that? What are you avoiding that you know needs to happen for you to level up? Maybe it's what's stopping you from prioritizing your health and doing the things you know you need to do, but they're uncomfortable, but they'll make a big impact. Maybe it's your career. Maybe you're avoiding taking a big leap or taking on a project that you know would pay off, just like my friend I was talking about earlier. But it feels really uncomfortable because there's a huge workload or a huge learning curve, and that feels uncomfortable. That discomfort and the fear and the challenges are valid, but so is your bigger goal, your bigger desire, your bigger vision. And what if you shine more light on that part? Why do you want those things? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to take that career leap? What would it truly mean for your life if you're honest with yourself? And who would you become in the process? Because here's the thing, the journey is just as important as the destination. Sometimes even more so. You don't accomplish great things by it being easy or being handed to you. So going back to what if you actually started embracing the challenge and maybe even enjoying the challenge? Because each moment of it is getting you closer to the next badass, incredible version of yourself. I have another friend who was recently talking about how in sales, they have this goal about like how many no's they can get. And they get excited every time they get a no and they don't make a sale because statistically, every no that you get leads you even closer to a sale. So you almost have to get excited about those no's rather than getting uncomfortable with hearing no. I learned that sales trick very early on. So I was like, oh yeah, that's cute. But there's something to it, right? It goes in line with what I'm talking about here. It's if you can learn to celebrate or enjoy even, or at least not resist so much the discomfort. Because if you think about it, athletes don't necessarily love pushing their bodies to the limit, but they love the end goal, the winning, the success, and that feeling, that electric feeling that they get when they finally accomplish what they've set out to do. If you're on a budget and you might not love skipping your Starbucks or buying the store brand generic over the name brand or skipping vacation, but you do it to save for a bigger goal like paying off debt or getting your dream home. And again, as I've said countless times, discomfort is temporary. And it's also a gift that you have been given to have the opportunity to become the person who overcame it and receive the next gifts at the end, at the goal line, the end. Change is majority a mental game. So conditioning yourself with the right mindset and some mental toughness to do the hard things that you're absolutely capable of because you're a high achiever. You have done harder things already in your life that you're likely not giving yourself credit for. You're just at a point in your life where you're comfortable. And I'll give you a freebie. If you're struggling to acknowledge yourself for an example of something that you've overcome and done harder, if you're a parent, boom, right there. Parenting is hard. And your kids are likely alive and well. And you have likely become a better parent along the way as you've gone through some difficult, uncomfortable, temporary times with your kids. You've learned and grown and become a better parent as a result of those uncomfortable phases. So the moral of the story is to just embrace the discomfort as the gift you get to overcome while you simultaneously maintain your vision of your goal. And I promise you that is the magic recipe to countless success stories, including your own. If you have really, really been struggling with motivation and feeling overwhelmed or too deprived and not knowing how to find that middle ground and how to get the habits in place to get your health or your life to that next level in a way that's actually sustainable, if this episode speaks to you, please reach out to me for a take control strategy session where I can help you gain clarity on what you really want and why, and uncover what's truly stopping you so that you can finally take the next step to reach your goals and get really clear on what those next steps are so that you can become that next version of yourself, which I can't wait to see. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Holistic High Achiever. I hope today's episode left you feeling inspired and ready to take on the world one healthy step at a time. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps so much, especially because we're eventually looking for a new sponsor. If you're anything like me, you probably thought of someone else who would like this, likely agree with this content and resonate it. So don't forget to share this with them because who can't use a little extra motivation? Until next time, keep embracing your journey and kicking ass.